morning, YouTube. Tired Metalhead Weatherman. Time is short, so I'm going to go ahead and do this very quickly. We have a slight risk today for severe weather. All hazards are possible, and at slight risk criteria, there is marginal potential for this to be upgraded. I'm not too sure at the moment, but parameters do look pretty impressive for this on all fronts. Here's a tornado threat for today across the western plains. This is where we're most concerned for action to be. Denver from McCook seems to be the greatest area of interest, but Cheyenne is also looking like they're in the action as well, so that's something to keep an eye on. But we can't disinclude Casper, Wyoming, and even just on the fringe of Rapid City here maybe being in the action, along with Garden City and Liberal in Kansas. Even the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas could be in the action here, so it's something to keep an eye on. The greatest threat still during this time of year often tends to be hail, and that is definitely the case today. So to get into the setup here, this is a classic Western Plains setup here. Have our trough coming in here, just south of the west coast here, and we get this little ski jump that develops here as we head later into the day here. We get a little wind maximum that tries to develop. This wind starts to surge just off the mountain, just off the eastern fringe of the mountains here. And what's going to happen here is this is going to end up meeting with some mildly juicy air. Temperatures are already warm over this region, we know that. So that moisture is going to be coming in from the Gulf and meeting up with this trough here. Dry line is going to merge, so dry air and moist air clashing, warm and cold air clashing. We already know what that's going to turn into. So with that being said, now that we know that there's a trough there, now that we already have an idea of what the moisture looks like, I had showed that in a video a couple of days ago. I'll show it again in just a little bit, just to give you a little bit more verification. But basically, here's what's going to happen. So basically, here's what's happening with the moisture. Nothing super impressive as far as dew points are concerned. Of course, it's going to be further off to the east. But those 55 degree to 60 degree dew points do make it far out to the west enough, just on the fringe of these mountains, to where they could cause problems. 55 is about the minimum. You really want to be towards 60, but it doesn't mean severe weather can't happen if you have the other parameters in place. This is exactly what we have going on in this case here. And boom, there you go. There's a sounding there to prove it. Interesting thing to note, with those higher elevations, you're not going to see these going all the way to 1,000 millibars. You'll hear me say storms like this will be elevated. That's not the case here. Of course, with higher elevation, you're going to be looking higher up into the atmosphere. So, just making sense, just trying to make some sense of it all for anyone that might get confused here. Promise when things slow down, I'll try to make more content to kind of help anyone that's wanting to know more about it. Well, that's what we have going on here. And by the way, here's our dry line setup here. Not the most impressive one that you've ever seen, but that dry line is still a crucial point for lift, because then there would be a big cap that would be inhibiting a lot of storm development today, and we don't really have too much of that as a result. Clicked on a bad sounding here, but that's a good example still. That being said, plenty of instability with this setup too. There's about 2,000 joules per kilogram worth of CAPE at the mixed level, so at the surface it's probably going to be even better. And CAPE is always the most rich towards the surface, but the best way to get an idea of what exactly is going on in the atmosphere is to look at the mix layer. And that's exactly what we see here. It's another sounding with a tornado on it, with a tornado probability on there, or possibility, but well over 2,000 joules per kilogram. Dew points just sufficient enough. Low level kinematics is at about 30 knots worth of wind shear. Towards the higher levels is actually a little bit more impressive. This could be maybe LP storms. I'm not entirely sure. I'm still learning a bit about those hortographs, because they can tell you actually what the shape of the supercell could look like here. I don't think this will be LP. We could be dealing with something in between. But I'm also rushing, so I'm not going to have a lot of I'm not going to be able to really get into the nitty gritty with that. But given the kinematics here, all hazards are definitely possible here, so you need to be staying weather aware across this region today in the Western Plains. We've been here before. You should know what to do. It shouldn't be too much of an issue. If tornado warning is issued, don't go outside and look at it. Just make sure you get into a safe spot. Last thing to do really is to look at the composite reflectivity and get out of here, so I can get out of here. Wish I could talk more, but I could probably talk about this all day, but I don't have time to, unfortunately. So around 21Z, which would be 3 o'clock my time, so about 1 p.m., start to see some storm initiation ongoing here. These aren't the most impressive storms I've seen on here with a composite reflectivity, but any sort of discrete cells are going to have to be the ones to watch for tornadic activity. Main threat definitely being hail and damaging winds, especially later into the evening. I can definitely see that verifying, and then of course by the morning the threat will start to diminish. Well, that's all I got for you guys here. I'm going to hurry up and edit this and get the heck out of here. It's been Tyler Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, have a good night or have a good day, and I might be live depending on circumstances. Take care.